Good afternoon. You are at our Governmental Affairs Committee meeting. We have several bills that we will be hearing today and voting out or taking a vote on. And at this time, before we get started, we will have a moment of prayer. If you would, please, Representative Sands.
Dear Lord, we know through your grace you have prepared a place for our soul. May all our thoughts, all our actions, all our civic participations and obligations be in line with preparing our soul for that place. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you. We have a number of bills that we are going to be hearing. I actually have two of my bills that we are going to hear first because some of these others may take a little while. The first one is going to be House Resolution 630. And members, it is in your pack. This came out of a request from the Rural Council. What we're doing in this is looking to create a study committee for the consolidation of county governments and school systems and for other purposes. One of the things that we found in the last 4.5 years that we have gone all across the state is looking at some of the issues that we have in our rural communities. And this is something that came up. We needed to look at it. Are all citizens of our state being served the same way? And some of our smaller communities financially cannot provide the same services. So this is something we want to look at. It is only a study committee. There is no bill associated to it. We just want to accumulate information and look at how we can help these communities. I will be happy to answer any questions. I don't see any. Okay, yes, we do.
Motion to pass.
Do I hear a second? All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I appreciate that. I have one more bill. Let's see, where did I put it? Yeah, the LC number is LC 441825. Okay, this is the number on it. It's House Resolution 630, LC number 432256S. That's the one that actually passed. That's the one that should be in your packet. Okay, now I'm going on to the next bill, and that is going to be House Bill 1182. Yeah, Stephen, would you like to conduct this meeting? So since I'm presenting the bill.
We have House Bill 1182. Chair Taylor, would you like to note the details of the bill?
Yeah, I'll be happy to share what this bill does. This is for local bill, and it has to do with something our county of Grady County started over 60 years ago. And they had a piece of swampy land and they wanted to create a lake in it, which they have done. And now the development part of it, this is part of the regulations that they had to come up with something to allow them to go forward and do the development with it. And that's what this bill does. It affects just the Grady County, and it is to make it so that our local Department of Development can move forward with it.
All right, and there were no opposition in the subcommittee that I can recollect. Is there any questions at this time for the author? Being no questions, we'll entertain a motion if there are any. We have a due pass and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any in opposition? The bill carries.
Thank you. Okay. Now we can proceed with the bills at hand. We'll start with the statement that we have from Gina Wright, who is in our legislative reapportionment office. And I think she has been at our hearings and had some comments to make. Gina?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify some of the process for the local redistricting bills. I've heard some of this through the meetings. If I haven't been here physically, I've been listening in while working and continuing to do the things that we're doing right now with all of the county maps and redistricting process that we're trying to work through. With the technical certification process, I know there's been some questions about whether this map was certified or did this map get a certification. The technical certification process was something that we put into code in 2019 as a result of the previous decade's redistricting cycle and some of the things that we had come upon with maps being submitted to us from outside sources. They weren't drawn by my staff in my office. They were drawn from an outside source. And sometimes we would find some technical issues with those maps, and we wouldn't always find it until it was in the middle of the legislative process, because there's another verification process that is part of the House Intergovernmental Coordination Committee's rules that I do. And I would catch them then and then find problems with the bills. And then we would have to make map corrections, delay the legislation. So it caused some issues. So in 2019, I had requested that we enact this process and procedure for local redistricting if a map was drawn outside of my office. Because we draft the report that goes in the bill, it has to come through my office at some point. So in this procedure, what happens is if a map is drawn or created outside of my office, it is to be submitted to my office. This is straight out of the code section, so that we can do a technical review. And that review is described in the code section as well, if you want that reference. It's 28-1-14.1. And if you want to look that up, this is all coming straight out of that. But that process includes and spells out what it is that I'm looking for in that map that was imported. They're technical things. They are feature inconsistencies. They are unassigned blocks, non-contiguous pieces, very technical little detailed parts of the process. So with the maps that are submitted to me, if I have a map submitted that I find no technical issues with, I don't see anything to question or anything that should be corrected or that I would recommend is to be corrected, then I would issue a certification to that local government that says I don't find any technical problems with your map. This process through the past couple months, that has not happened very often. Most of the maps that have been submitted to me, I have found technical issues with, and that's from every span of entity that has been drawing these maps and submitting them. Just because there's a lot of technical things that people just don't necessarily look for. So when I find these issues and report them back, in most cases, the local entity or the group asks for me to create a draft map to address the problems that I saw, because I can easily do that quicker than telling them where to do it. The code does give the option for them to make their own corrections, but if they do that, they have to submit it for an additional review, because I need to see, did they make the corrections? If I draw it, then I don't have to do that. I've already fixed the corrections and sent it back to them. At that point, the bill or the map can move forward as it is. I don't issue a certification if I made corrections to the map. There's no reason for me to certify my own work, because hopefully I know what I did and hopefully I did it right. So that's the only time you'll see a technical certification, is if a map is submitted to me from an outside source that I did find problems with or did not find problems with in the original version it was submitted, then they would receive a technical certification. And I've only issued a very few of those through the whole process. In these cases that we're looking at, I know with the maps that are going to be discussed today with Cobb County, one of those maps I believe was actually drawn in my office by my staff. And the other map was the map that was submitted. I found technical errors with it. I did make technical corrections and create a draft from that. And that draft that I corrected is the version that's in the bill. So both of those effectively did come through my office or were drawn by my office and did have our corrections and our process applied to them. And those are what you see in those two bills. And I'm not sure what other bills you have up today that might be of the similar nature, but that's why you don't see necessarily a technical certification form, because most of the time I haven't issued those for most of the maps that have been presented to my office.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that does clarify for us. And it is quite a lengthy process to go through redistricting. And we've had a lot of input. We've heard from people on both sides of every map. And today we will be hearing from the authors of these bills. And I'm going to call the first one up, and that would be Cobb County Board of Education. Representative Earhart.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And thank you to the committee for being here today and for the opportunity I have to present to you House Bill 1028. This bill sets forth the new district lines for the Cobb County Board of Education. The map was drawn to achieve a couple of very important goals, and I'd like to enumerate those. Number one, this map was designed to preserve local control, to abide with legal compliance, to follow equal representation, and also to ensure the stability of the district as a whole, as well as the 7 individual posts within it. This is the map that the Cobb Board of Education voted for and passed. They did so after a request to have these map lines drawn in ways that would do a couple of different things. Number one, comply with the federal and Georgia constitutions and the Voting Rights Act. I believe it a good map, a fair map, fairly drawn. A couple of points I'd like to make that I did also make in subcommittee. Each of these posts achieved a population derivation of less than 0.5%. The plan also potentially creates 3 minority opportunity voting districts. That's post 2, 3, and 6. Each of these posts is represented by at least 2 high schools, which was another goal. The board also considered communities of interest, the location and placement of cities within the county being one of those, and that has been achieved successfully with this map. It's also worth noting other issues or other points that were considered in the drawing, which would be high school attendance zones, school feeder patterns, and also the fact that it kept every member who is eligible for reelection within their same post. I am a nearly 50, I said 45 the other day, I did the math, I'm actually nearly a 50-year resident of Cobb County. And I will tell you, I'm a product of the Cobb County public school system myself, a graduate of Osborne High School. I have a real place in my heart, having been the mother of 4 children who were raised in the county. I have a real place in my heart for the well-being of our school district, and I'm proud of how well our school district has done and performed statewide as compared to statewide. I would feel real good about it. I would like to also let you know that I'm here to answer questions if you have any, and I certainly would ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 1028. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, you do have a question. Representative Shannon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the bill sponsor, you mentioned that districts 2, 3, and 6 have a minority representation opportunity.
Potential. I
Potential.
described it as
right.
potential.
But it's also true that when you put more minority voters than what is necessary to comply with the Voting Rights Act, you risk packing. You risk that your map will be found guilty of packing. So in District 1, you've got a non-white population of 58%, District 2, 32% non-white population, District 3, 20% non-white population, District 4, 65% non-white population, District 5, 67% non-white population, District 6, 39%, and District 7, 58% non-white population. Districts 2, 3, and 6 have substantially more non-white voters than what's necessary to comply with the Voting Rights Act. So how can you assure us that this map would not be a map that has packing in it,
Right.
specifically to dilute the Black vote?
Understand your implication there. I can assure you there was no packing involved in the drawing of these map lines. With this post 2, I have 31.8%, post 3, 20.7%, and post 6, 39.4%. When I say that one of the priorities for the drawing of this map was to comply with the Voting Rights Act, I mean exactly what I said. And I can assure you that goal was achieved. It was important, and it has met that legal bar. This is a defendable map. I can assure you also the person involved in the drawing of this map is going to be the same person tasked with defending it in court if necessary. And so that bar was set high and it was achieved. I have complete confidence this complies with the Voting Rights Act and does not involve packing of any sort. But thank you for the question.
Representative Wynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With this particular map, you did state that it was approved by the Cobb Board of Education, but it was not a unanimous vote. Is that true?
It was approved by a majority vote of the Cobb Board of Education. Yes.
And can you share with me the breakdown of what that vote was?
I believe it was 4-3.
And could you further share with me which board members voted against that?
I don't actually have that information in front of me right now.
Is it true that board members Sharice Davis, Trey Hutchins, and Dr. Jaha Howard, those were the 3 members that opposed that map?
I believe that's correct.
And could you tell me the race of those specific members?
I believe they are all African American.
Yes, that's true. And then further, with this map that you have proposed, are there 2 Black members that have been drawn into one district?
My understanding is those two particular members live very close together, and one of them has declared that he has no intention of running for reelection. Therefore, one of the priorities that was set to ensure that all members of the board who are eligible for reelection in the next term would not be drawn out of their district. So everyone who is running for reelection is remaining in their same post.
And one more question. Thank you for answering these questions. One of the members who has stated that he's not running for reelection, qualifying actually hasn't happened yet. Is that true? So it's not a fact that he's,
Well, he's told the papers, so.
okay, thank you.
Representative Roberts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did you hold any public hearings about this map?
I did not personally hold any public hearings, no. The map has been publicly available for some time, though, and I certainly have been open and receptive to any members of anyone at all that wishes to come and speak to me about the map.
And why is this being brought as a general bill instead of, my understanding in 2011 is every single redistricting bill was brought as a local bill, and this is a deviation from
Every
history.
single, what do you mean, every single redistricting
There were
bill?
over 200 bills where we drew
You're
the
talking about
maps the
local,
last
you're talking
time.
about for local.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. So I'm just curious, this seems to be a deviation from historical process and why you brought it as a local bill.
Right. Well, I think it's helpful to have a little understanding about what is the proper protocol and the path for different types of bills. And you may be referencing the path that local bills are often taken, which would be through the intergovernmental coordination thing. That path is really a shortcut method, and it's designed to sort of fast track bills where you have unanimous consent. And that probably has largely to do with the overwhelming number of local bills that the legislature has to deal with every year. So the idea behind that is that when you have a bill that is not contested, that everybody agrees on it, let's say all members of the board agree on it, it can go through that path. This is absolutely not a deviation or in any way inappropriate path for this to take. It was placed in this Government Affairs Committee to be run as a general bill, and this is the perfect place for it. So
how many members of the Cobb delegation are in support of your map?
I don't know because they haven't told me.
How many members are in favor of it?
I would say of all of the Cobb delegation members who live and reside in Cobb County, the majority support this bill.
Thank you. Let's see. Representative Brunel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a substitute I would like to offer at the appropriate time.
Thank you. I will keep that under consideration. Representative Collins? You wait, okay. Representative Shannon?
Chair. Just a follow-up question for the sponsor. I know you have full confidence in your map that there's nothing wrong with it. My concern, as I've stated before, is that this map was drawn to dilute the minority voting power in Cobb. My specific question is, and because we were not all involved in your process in drawing the maps, you've got several areas where you split municipalities. Talk to us about why you split the municipality of Smyrna as well as Kennesaw. What was the thinking behind
I
that?
can't speak directly to the reason, but I can tell you that there were a number of sort of benchmarks we had to meet, requirements that we had to do. One of them being population deviation, ensuring that we had the right number of people in those posts, an equitable number of people in terms of population. Whereas it is best to try to avoid that. It is sometimes unavoidable and necessary, much in the way we occasionally have to split precincts. So I can't speak directly to why that was done, but I can imagine that since what we have in the end is a map that has a good population deviation, has met all of these other benchmarks, I can only assume that the division of that municipality was just simply necessary to achieve the map, the fair and lawful map that we have.
So just to clarify, you're saying that Smyrna and Kennesaw have such growth in population that there was no other choice but to split the municipalities?
I can tell you that the growth in population across the Cobb County in general. Do you live in Cobb County?
I'm in DeKalb.
You're in DeKalb. And much like DeKalb, the growth in Cobb County has been tremendous. We have approximately 750,000 people now. So no, the growth is not necessarily left and concentrated in those areas, but many of our municipalities have experienced tremendous growth, more so than our more unincorporated portions of the county. it is not surprising to me that it might be necessary to occasionally divide a municipality.
Right. So I was just trying to clarify that you're saying that Smyrna and Kennesaw specifically, I understand there's been lots of population growth. We know that for DeKalb, for Fulton, for Gwinnett, for Cobb. We know that the metro area has experienced a lot of growth. But specifically, I'm trying to figure out what was the thinking behind splitting Smyrna and Kennesaw.
I cannot speak to why, I cannot speak to those.
Thank you.
Representative Sands, did you have a comment?
Sure. Real quickly, Representative Earhart, have you brought forth to this committee a map that you best feel represents the unique attributes of your community?
I certainly have, and having lived in county for as long as lived in the county for as long as I have, I think I have a unique understanding of those sort of commonality and communities of interest, and I do feel good. It's not just me that feels that way. It is the majority of the members of the Cobb School Board, the majority of the members of the Cobb Delegation that actually live and reside in Cobb County, and certainly all of those that we have here today that are supporting the bill have confidence in it as well. Thank you for the question.
I appreciate it. And just for clarification, just because it's been brought up, at any point did you direct reapportionment officer, or are you aware of anyone else in the creation of your maps to make a map reflective of any distinct racial backgrounds with any of the districts?
Certainly not.
Thank you.
Representative Nguyen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, I do want to get a better understanding of just how this process worked, because Representative Bernal does have a substitute that comes from members of your local Cobb delegation. Did you seek input from other members of your delegation to create this map?
Certainly, everyone is well aware that I was actually carrying this bill. This map has been widely publicly available. My assumption would be that if any member of our Cobb delegation or anyone else at all had any concern whatsoever with this map, I would have thought that they would have approached the person carrying it, the bill's author, which is me. I've not heard from any of them.
And to that same vein, when Representative Eric Allen sent to your entire delegation draft maps for both the school board and the commission, did you give him feedback?
I had no feedback to offer at that time, no.
Okay, and one more clarification. On January 6th, your local Cobb delegation members met to discuss these maps. Did you show up to that meeting?
I had an obligation in my district and was unable to attend.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Bernal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one question for the author. You keep referring to the members of the Cobb delegation that live in Cobb, as if to say that those that don't live in Cobb are not equally as important, or that they don't care, or they don't have value. And I just find that hard to believe, that just because they don't live in Cobb, but they do represent Cobb residents. So therefore, they would be concerned about what is going to happen to their constituents, just as you are. And I really don't understand. So if you could explain to me why you keep making a difference in the delegation of those that live in Cobb and those that don't. And the reason I say that is I'm the chair of the Clayton County delegation. I do live in Clayton County, and I have 3 members that don't, but I don't treat them differently. They are a part of the Clayton County delegation, and I don't refer to them as those that don't live or those that do live. So I just need clarification as to the value, or if there's a difference between those that live in Cobb and those that don't, but they still represent Cobb and they represent constituents.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify. And I think that you misinterpret my comment when you say that it is somehow a reflection on the value of them, or even their ability to represent. That's not at all what I mean. Certainly all members of any delegation are equally important. You're asking me to give perspective on the support for this particular bill. I draw that distinction because certainly people who live in a particular community, or as representatives, we live in a community and our own children attend these Cobb County schools, often will give them a unique perspective because that's their hometown, that's where they live. It is in no way to cast any sort of, I'm not disparaging people who do, or the members that don't live in the county, or in any way lessening their value. My point here is that the people who live there, who are most affected, shall we say, right, most affected personally by the Cobb County school system, would be those who live there and their families actually attend those schools. That is only the distinction I was making.
Okay, well, Representative Schofield doesn't live in Clayton County, but she represents schools in Clayton County. And she's very active in her schools and she, personally connected with her constituents. So I still just find that hard to believe that they would not, just because they don't live there, but they represent, that would be that big of a difference.
I was just
But
simply
thank
drawing
you.
attention to the unique perspective of those who actually reside in the county and those that don't. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Representative Williams is on Zoom. If you will unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'd like to give the unique perspective of a third generation Cobb County who's lived there 60 years plus. Hate to say exactly how many, and both of my boys did attend Cobb County schools. So I find I hope that Madam Representative will find my comments as important as those of folks who disagree with me on this. I've received dozens of emails. My email box is overflowing with folks who will be affected by these maps. And I'm hoping you can help me understand something. As I understand, there are up to 100,000 people who've been moved into different districts. And as a result, many of them would have been eligible to vote for school board of Education in 2022, but because they have been moved into a different district, they are not going to be able to vote or choose their Board of Education representative until 2024. And many of them that are emailing me have children in the schools. They're feeling disenfranchised. And I'm wondering what you would say to those people who are saying to me that they feel like their vote has been stolen from them for an additional 2 years.
I would simply say that part of the natural process of the natural effect of the redistricting process is that there will occasionally be people who are no longer in one district or now in another. I have folks, I represent House District 36 in Western Cobb County. There's a large swath of people that I will no longer be representing in the next election. They will now be tasked with voting for someone else. And I don't believe they're feeling disenfranchised, but I encourage, just as anyone who was affected or whose district lines have moved and now residents are voting for someone they didn't used to vote for, to trust in the process. This is how it works. In the end, the goal is fair and equitable maps across our county that comply with all of the benchmarks that we need to meet. So if you have people that are contacting you, Representative Williams, and that are concerned about this, I would encourage you to have them get in touch with their new board member and make themselves known. As I guarantee you that all new members, whether they're new members or old members, they are their goal is to provide proper representation on that school board for their constituents. So I would encourage you to tell those who are reaching out to you to have faith in the process and introduce themselves to their new board members when the time is right. Thank you for your question.
Madam Chair, may I ask another question?
Yes.
I understand that these maps were drawn privately by a private entity and paid for by the Board of Education. Can you tell me what the cost of those maps, having those maps drawn was, and was the cost in fact paid for by the Board of Education or by the use of any county funds?
I am not sure of the actual dollar amount that was paid. I believe that was done, and there may be someone here that can clarify me on the source of the funds for that. I believe it was the Cobb board. Yeah. I would like to it would be worth noting that the firm that was tasked with drawing these maps drew maps for both Republicans and Democrats. That's just an aside, but I'd like to make the point.
Right. Madam Chair, one more question, please.
One more.
So you've talked about how this process is this process of taking bills that have been treated for decades as local bills and treating them as general bills is something of a shortcut process instead of a deviation or a different way of doing it. Can you tell me how many other counties out of 159 are having their bills treated as general bills rather than local bills? Because I've been voting day after day on local bills for other counties where their boards of education are being treated as local bills, not general bills.
Again, and not to repeat myself, but I believe that process is designed for situations where there is consensus on that legislation. That is what that process is designed for. You probably know as well as any of us do. We see that local calendar on our desk every morning, and there's usually a few bills early in the session, and then there can be even more as the session wanes on. I've seen a local calendar like that be a page and a half long. So I believe that in those cases, what you're talking about are cases where there is not dispute among the members of those delegations, there is agreement, and therefore they take the proper path through that committee by way of the local calendar. Yeah.
I would just like to say that I'd like to go on record as saying I am not pleased and do not feel that Cobb has been treated fairly by being treated differently as the majority of the other counties, and having our local bills treated as general bills and drawn by entities other than our local delegation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, I think Gina has something she wants to add to this comment about the maps being drawn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, as far as the process of having an outside entity draw your maps, we have received maps from for various counties that have been drawn by regional commissions, by independent consultants, by other firms. So it's not unusual for a county to use an outside source to draw a map and submit it to my office. It just has to follow the procedure that's laid out for that to be done. But that's not unusual and compared to other counties and the process that they are undertaking.
Thank you for clarifying that. All right, we've got a few more questions. And I do want to remind everybody that this bill has gone through subcommittee, and we've had quite a few of these are duplicates. We've already addressed a lot of these. Representative Robert, you next.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up with something you said to me that I didn't catch. And one of the other reps has made it clear to me. You said a majority of the delegation I thought you said was in favor of this. That is not accurate. You said.
And I think I clarified that just a moment ago, but let me go back over that again for you. What I did say was it was certainly voted on by the majority of the members of the Cobb Board of Education, and that it was also approved and agreed upon by a majority of the members of the Cobb delegation that reside and live within Cobb County. That was what I said.
But isn't it about the people, not the representatives, as far as how?
What do you say?
It's not about whether the representative lives in the county. We represent people that we can't live in two counties at once.
Right.
And so in my Fulton delegation, we go through a process and we have bylaws that if the majority of the delegation approves of something, that's what gets moved forward as a local bill. Is that true of your Cobb delegation?
I think what I said was perfectly clear, and that I said that yes, no, we did not have the approval of the majority of the members, all members. I made the distinction as to members who actually reside and send their children to Cobb County schools.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, Representative Collins.
Echo what you said about the process. The process is being carried out just like any other piece of legislation. It's being vetted in committee. Those who are choosing to oppose this piece of legislation are doing that and having a voice heard. So, I mean, I'm a little confused as to what the big deal is about circumventing the process. We're not circumventing any process. If I wanted to bring legislation that affected my community and didn't want to do it through local legislation, I have the ability to bring it before a general bill. Before the body as a general bill. Isn't that correct, Legislative Council? Is that correct?
I mean, yes, sir. The rules of the House do allow for what is legally local legislation to follow the procedure used for general bills.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Representative Gullett?
Yeah, just to your point, Madam Chair, that this was, my understanding vetted in the subcommittee and has been talked about, and at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you. We're very close. Representative Brown, did you have something you wanted to offer?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to reiterate that I understand the process. I guess the part that I don't understand is that if you are a member of a delegation, why you and the other members of the delegation could not have worked together for the constituents of Cobb County. That's my concern.
Representative Nguyen, do you have a final comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, I did want to ask if we would have the opportunity as a committee, because many of us actually are not members of Cobb. So it would be better for us to have a comparison. There is a substitute map on the table that members, the majority of the members of the Cobb delegation have supported. We're not able to see those two side by side.
Well, I would say, have you done your homework?
Well, that was just dropped yesterday and we have not been able to have a public hearing on that. So I would guess that there would be presentation of a sub. It would get proper vetting in a public space where people could comment.
I'm
on that
sorry,
version?
I'm not going to allow that. It should have been brought forward in a more timely manner. So we are not going to entertain that. We're not taking public comment today. I'm not sure. Please go to the, please go to the, please go to the podium.
Thank you for offering that, Representative Nguyen. We did offer this, and I do believe after your comments on Monday, we were encouraged when you said, go work this out. We did not work it out because we offered. I said, we can meet anytime, and we were shown the door. There was no public meetings. Whether you live in Cobb or whether you don't, the majority is 6-6. So you're going to give me 2 minutes, and I appreciate the 2 minutes. You're going to give me 2 minutes like you did the other day, and I offered. I came to your desk, and then, so I'm going to let Terry speak because right now I'm just disgusted at this chamber, disgusted.
I would
And I
be
think
very,
y'all- no,
very
wait a second. Let
careful
me hear
with
me
it.
out.
No,
Hear
you're
me out.
going to listen to me.
No, I'm not going to listen to you because I'm tired of you.
Cut 'em off.
At the end of the day, this is my community. We have 4.
You're out of order. You are out of order.
This hearing's out of order. 4 white
Will you
members
please call
that
security?
are fighting 3 African Americans. I dare you to come down. So all we're asking is that we get the same respect that you white members get.
Oh, my God.
So let me just be very clear. If
Oh.
you- Go ahead.
Please, we have security on the way.
Please break them on. Ridiculous.
I'm Representative Terry Anulowitz. I represent House District 42. My district is entirely within Cobb County, and I do indeed have a child that attends Cobb County Public Schools. Obviously, I have not lived in Cobb County as long as Representative Earhart has. However, I do have much room in my heart for my home and for my community and for our schools and for the teachers and the educators and the students and the administrative staff and the elected board members who were there. I want to speak to the transparency of this process. I have spoken to the chair. I have emphasized repeatedly that, and I'm speaking to you right now as vice chair of the Cobb County delegation. Chairman Allen is not able to be here today. I am speaking to you as vice chair of the delegation to emphasize once again, publicly and on the record, that we delegation leadership have done our level best to ensure that this process did not devolve into opaque obfuscation. I have sent emails to my Republican colleagues in the delegation asking how the public would have opportunities for public input, because I have received phone calls and emails from folks who said, hey, I have a question about these maps that were just dropped. What happened? How can we have input? We have concerns. The high school that my son attends, for example, is divided between 2 school district posts. It's hard for me to believe that there was an emphasis on keeping high schools together when that clearly is not happening. And so again, this has not been a transparent process. It has been a process that myself and my colleagues have really, truly gone out of our way and above and beyond to make this a collaborative, an honest, and an open process. But when we're not getting replies to emails with concerns about constituent input, when maps are being dropped with no consultation with the other members of the delegation whatsoever, I hope you can understand the roots of my frustration. This has not been an open process. I don't care who drew the maps that they were doing. I mean, again, that's neither here nor there. But it was done behind closed doors. It was done without citizen input. And that is not how we work in Cobb County. I have served as a public official in Cobb County for almost 15 years. We pride ourselves with our spirit of openness and conversation and collaboration, which frankly is the only way you can expect to successfully operate in a county that is as dynamic and as diverse as Cobb County is, particularly as rapidly as this change has happened in our county. I understand why people who are accustomed to being in the majority are now operating from a place of fear. I understand that fear is a powerful motivator. But I am here to tell you today that it is never any excuse for not having open, transparent collaboration between equals on the delegation. And that is what I have to say about this map. That is what I have to say about the forthcoming map. I do not live in a transportation corridor. I live in a town. I live in a community. I don't have much more to say about that. I'm disappointed in this process. I am disappointed in my colleagues on the delegation, and I am disappointed that this process has devolved to where we are right here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
No.
Yes, we will have a hand count. All right, will you please, everyone that says are in affirmative, raise your hand. Those on Zoom, if you would identify yourself, unmute, and then give us your vote.
Mary Frances Williams, no.
Chairman Powell? Okay, what is the count? All those no? The bill passes. Thank you.
What was the breakdown of the vote?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
What's the numerical breakdown of the vote?
6 to 8.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will hear House Bill 1154. Chairman Carson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Present to you a bill that we heard a couple days ago, House Bill 1154. This is in regards to the reapportionment of the Cobb County Commission districts. You can see the maps with just the 4 districts for just each of the 4 commissioners on your left and right. This map maintains, there's a 3-2 majority on the Cobb Commission. This map maintains a 3-2 majority on the Cobb Commission. It has 3.
Light switch. Okay. There we go. Thank you.
There's 4 commission districts that were really drawn for communities of interest. One for Northwest Cobb, which includes Ackworth, West Marietta, parts of Kennesaw, a fair amount of Kennesaw actually, Northeast Cobb, which is where I live, along the Johnson's Ferry Road corridor, including East Marietta and East Cobb. And when I say East Cobb, I mean directionally, not just the proposed city. Southwest Cobb obviously includes Mableton and Austell, and a middle of Cobb district that includes basically the urbanization and like-minded communities along I-75 and Cumberland and the Battery to Town Center. It reflects that corridor along I-75. What the maps do is they bring together spheres and communities of influence in regard to churches, schools, other activity centers that are common across the community. This was really the driving principle. We are a very diverse county, and we are a 3-2 Democrat majority county. This map maintains as drawn, as proposed, maintains a 3-2 Democrat majority as it stands. So happy to answer any questions. The deviation on the population is 766,000 as of the census. Each district is right around 191,000 with a deviation of less than 1/4 of 1%.
Thank you. Let's see, Representative Wynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, something that has been brought up is the District 2 and Commissioner Jerica Richardson. In this current map, does Commissioner Richardson still reside in District 2?
No, she does not. She would be located in District 3.
And prior to drawing these maps, did you ask for the members of the commission for their addresses?
No, I did not. None of them.
I think, and this was discussed before, and I want to get some clarity on this because I do not think that we actually understand how we would proceed with Commissioner Jerica now living outside of the proposed District 2, given that her term doesn't expire till 2024. Can you walk through those different scenarios?
I'm confusing the question. Walk through the different scenarios of what exactly?
In order for
her to
Commissioner
continue her term?
Yes, to
Oh,
continue
okay.
her term.
All right, I just want to understand your question,
Yes.
Representative Wynn.
Sure.
So she is a duly elected commissioner. She is absolutely entitled, doesn't have to run for reelection to serve her remaining time on her term, which I think expires December 31st of 24.
Mhm.
As I understand it from county code, she would just need to reside in the district in which she lives. I'll address this issue head on. What has transpired since the November 2020 election, Representative Wynn, and it was actually a conversation that myself and Chairman Setzler and Commissioner Richardson and I had here on Monday at length.
Mhm.
And what she had, Commissioner Richardson had decided to do was to move from what is now, what you see as the pink area, District 2. She decided to move from the Delk Road I-75 area all the way 7-8 miles north, all the way up to what is a voting precinct called Hightower 01. It's very close to Pope High School. And she did that during a year, within months, less than 12 months after being sworn in as a commissioner during a reapportionment year. There was no targeting here. And I know I will be accused of that. And that's just how, unfortunately, this process works. And I understand that. And I'll be tagged with that. I understand that.
Right.
But there was no targeting here. She decided to relocate her home from what is the current district, what is in the I-75 Delk Road area, where there was a lot of her electoral base of support all the way up to Northeast Cobb.
Right. But when she did move, she remained within her current district.
She
too. So
did.
she didn't move out of the district.
That's correct.
In order for her to keep representing this new District 2, she would have to move again. Is that correct?
I would defer to county code as well as legislative council. My understanding is what she would need to do is move within that, what's the best way to say it? That common area between the old District 2 and the new District 2. And there's, as I understand, there's plenty of opportunities to do that between now and when these maps take effect, which would be January 1st of 23.
And what would happen if she was unable to move? It's a pretty big task to ask somebody to move
Unable
again
to move?
back into the district.
I don't see how that's even a possibility.
Well, not all of us can just pick up and move. I couldn't move. Where would I live? If I sold my house right now, I couldn't buy back into my district.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, so given the scenario, if Commissioner Richardson chooses not to move, right? Unable to, unwilling to, what happens next?
As I understand it, from according to county code, she would vacate her seat if it were to be challenged that she does not currently reside in Cobb County District 2 as it exists as of January 1st, 23.
I have some case law here on that very thing related to Georgia code, related to cases that have been before the court. If Commissioner Richardson chose not to move or was unable to move, this states both the 1976 and 1945 state constitutions specifically prohibit abolishing an elective office during its term. No office to which person has been elected shall be abolished, nor the term of the office shortened or lengthened by local or special bill during the term for which such person was elected, unless the same by approved by the people of the jurisdiction affected in a referendum on a ballot.
If that's a question, we're not abolishing the office. We're not abolishing the term. She was a duly elected commissioner. She's just required to live in her district.
You are shortening the term under the terms of this map.
We're not shortening the term. She's a commissioner through December 31st, 24. She would just need to live in her district.
This map effectively forces her to move in order to carry out the term she was elected to till 2024. I can give you a copy of this if you'd like.
Sure,
There are
we-
other
we can look
cases
at
that
that
have
later.
come before.
Sure.
Thank you.
Representative Brunel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a substitute at the appropriate time and also have a question for the author of the bill. When we were going through the redistricting process, lead counsel sent us an email and gave us instructions about where we could or could not live and we couldn't move during this process. Was that commissioner given that information that during the redistricting process that she could not move? Did someone legally, did they tell her what the process is for redistricting in terms of moving, or
I don't.
what does it say?
I don't know if she had legal counsel. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, because I just find it hard to believe that that you would do a map to draw someone out and you say it's not intentional and then tell somebody to move in with the prices of houses. It's just, and then there might not be an availability. So to tell her now that she has to move back when you knew where you didn't even ask for her address, that's not her fault. That's on you. So maybe there should be some adjustments to your map.
We did not ask Republican commissioners. We did not ask Democrat commissioners.
Don't you think that you should have? I mean, if you're going to redraw something, we have to prove our address every time that we refile. Wouldn't it have, I just don't understand why you would not have done the same for her. Thank you.
Did you have a comment? Okay, let's see. Next with the question is Representative Shannon.
Thank you. It's been said many times that even if Commissioner Richardson had not moved, her old address would not have been, she would have been drawn out of her district anyways with these maps. So the question is, why did you choose to draw Commissioner Jerica and Jerica Richardson and Joanne Burrell into the same district? And then I've got a follow-up question.
When we were here Monday afternoon, myself, Chairman Setzler, and Commissioner Richardson, Jerica, what we identified based on the feedback that was given to me is that the previous residence that Commissioner Richardson had was between the parcel of land between I-75 and Powers Ferry Road. Okay, right along that area, more or less. That is in the old District 2. That is in the new District 2. So she could choose, as I understand it, she could choose to move back to her prior location. And I can, not to, it was brought up in regard to possible to move. Well, I can assure you that with real estate prices, it's possible to sell a house in where she's at. My understanding is that she lived her old residence, okay, from which she won election in November 2020, rightfully under the election, was in the old District 2 and the new District 2. Does that answer your question?
Okay. The second question I have is that, again, with the packing and cracking, when you've got a population and you decide to decrease the amount of folks in that minority group within a map, it's called cracking. This map, if you do your homework, looks like, again, we've got packing and cracking. So under the map that the Board of Commissioners submitted and that they want it passed for the General Assembly, we see that in District 3, they had 21% Black vote. But in your map, you've got 9% Black vote. So that's packing. And then, I'm sorry, cracking. And then in District 2, that is now packed because Black voters went from 19% to 34%. Do you want to speak to how you made those decisions?
This was a map. I've never heard of packing and cracking.
That's what the courts call it. You can, if you do your homework, that's what the courts call it. And it's
Okay.
historic. It's been done with Black communities
Wow,
specifically.
okay.
It is historic.
You can take a look at the districts up there as they're drawn. They were drawn to be over smooth lines, over roads and so forth. There are some split precincts, just like there are for the Board of Education map. I don't know how to answer your question other than that.
Thank you.
Let's see, Roberts.
Nope. Am I there? No, I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Find it fascinating that the person drawing the maps doesn't know what's legally required, but that's an aside. My question is, I think Renita, I'm sorry, Rep. Shannon, implied that the Cobb County Commission, the map that they submitted, is it the same map that you've got before us today?
No, it is not.
Okay, and did you seek collaboration with the rest of the Cobb delegation on this map?
I believe there have been conversations, but I don't know what those conversations have been. Representative Setzler and others have worked collaboratively on this map.
But not with any of the Democrats who are in the majority of the Cobb
I don't know
delegation?
what conversations that have been had.
Okay, and did you hold any public hearings on your particular map?
Not on this particular map, no.
And do you know if the Cobb County Commission held public hearings on their map?
I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, Representative Boehner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question was so long ago, so I don't remember the question, but Representative Nguyen asked a question to the author, and I really wanted the Legislative Council to answer it instead of him answering it because it was a legal question. But the question was so long ago.
Okay.
Remember what your question was?
Legislative Council and I talked about this morning. So I believe Stuart should know, it was a question around what would happen if Commissioner Jerica Richardson was unable to move back into the new district.
State law does require that if a elected official is elected from a district where they are required to be a resident, if they no longer reside in that district, it would create a vacancy in the office. The General Assembly, the Georgia Supreme Court in the past has upheld actions by the General Assembly that resulted in a elected official. The General Assembly passed laws that changed boundaries that resulted in an elected official no longer meeting the residency qualifications for that office, and the Supreme Court upheld those actions. The citations made to the Constitution were provisions of the 1945 and 1976 constitutions, but are not in the 1983 Constitution. They have been moved into the state code at OCGA 1311. And those really deal more with the term of an office itself, and it does not, it is the term of the office, not necessarily the term of the incumbent of the office. How all of these various provisions interact with each other, I'm unaware of there being any very good case law over the past 50 years or so, so I can't actually hypothetically guess how the Georgia courts would treat such a situation necessarily.
Thank you. Let's see, who's next? Chairman Oliver?
Thank you. I understand your answer in response to Representative Roberts to be that you have had no personal conversation with any member of the Cobb County Commission about these maps you're presenting today. Is that accurate?
I have not myself.
Okay. Are you aware, do you have any personal information about whether or not Representative Earhart has had any direct conversation with any member of the Cobb County Commission?
Representative Earhart on the commission maps. I do not know.
Okay. Have you personally had any conversation you're representing the interest of the Cobb Commission today? Last week, you were representing the interest of, I forget which one, Lost Mountain and
City of Vinings.
City of Vinings. Have you had any personal conversations with the Cobb County Commission, you yourself, on the dollar value of the pension legacy that will be owed by Lost Mountain and City of Vinings to the Cobb County Commission?
I have not.
Have you had any personal conversations with the Cobb County Commission on whether or not they agree, or you agree, or they agree that a pension legacy will be owed in the eventuality of due cities?
I have not, although I will say that there are transition language, there is transition language, at least well stated out in the City of Vinings in regard to developing a transitional agreement and an IGA.
What is the relation?
Chairman, we are not discussing Vinings. We're discussing this bill today. Thank you.
That there's issues here about who you're representing Vinings on one day and representing the Cobb County Commission on another day, and I'm confused. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Burnell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Who drew the map? Who drew your maps for you?
It was primarily done with consultation of various members of the Cobb delegation, primarily led by Chairman Setzler.
Was it a private entity or did the reapportionment?
I think the reapportionment office answered that question, Representative Burnell, that this map was drawn in their office.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Representative Wynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, I wanted to go back on something that was brought up earlier. You stated that you have never heard the terms packing and cracking before. And I am concerned because, as you know, when these maps are drawn, we do have to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which explicitly says that you cannot pack or crack. So how can we members be confident that that is done in your proposal if you don't even know what those terms are?
Okay, we're getting offline here. We're done with the questions. I'm getting ready to call the question. We have somebody that wants to make a motion.
I make a motion to accept the maps as presented.
Do we have a
bills.
second? A motion, we have a motion do pass. Will you read the LC number so we make sure we're all on the same page?
Yes. My apologies, Madam Chair. LC 280416.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
No.
Okay, we will have a hand count. I would like to say, everybody raise your hand. That is the aye. Okay, and those online, we'll take account afterwards. All those opposed? Okay, all those online, if you will unmute and identify your vote.
Mary Frances Williams, no.
Chairman Blackman, are you there?
Yes.
Chairman Powell? Okay. It's 9-7 and passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're under
And
rules.
I just want to say, I know this is a contentious process. I hope I can speak on behalf of, I'm not a member of this committee. I hope I can speak on behalf of this committee to Representative Anderson, the loss of your father, Melvin. My condolences. I lost my father 15 years ago, and my sincere condolences to you, sir.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next bill, but I do want to make a couple of statements. We will have proper decorum in this meeting. And I want to answer something that was stated by Representative Wilkerson, because I did mention to you right before this meeting started that I contacted your majority leader to tell you I wanted to speak to you about what you wanted with your bill. And I was not it was after I gave you the opportunity. All right, now we'll move on to the next bill. Okay, we have I think the senator, are you here? Lost mine. Okay, we have before us Senate Bill 369. Senator Dixon, if you will present your bill, please.
I'm bringing Senate Bill 369 before you today. It is a bill proposing to change Gwinnett County Board of Education from partisan to nonpartisan elections. It has nothing to do with a map. We've agreed upon the map. It just simply is a request to change the school board from partisan elections to nonpartisan elections. And as a father of 3 children in the public school system, I understand firsthand the role education plays in sculpting the next generation of leaders. As a legislator, I take great responsibility in representing the concerns of my constituents at the state level. While education should be predominantly controlled at the local level, the state has an important responsibility of ensuring all Georgian students receive the best quality education. Over the past few months, I've received increasingly high number of constituents contacting me directly with the concerns of the operations of our school board and school system in Gwinnett County. I would also like to note that experts like the Georgia School Board Association have publicly called for the General Assembly to make both state school board education and local school board education nonpartisan. And this was laid out in their publication of their 2022 legislative priorities. The education of our children should be a nonpartisan issue. Let's get politics out of our schools and once again focus on educating our children. After almost 2 years of being in and out of school because of the pandemic, our students need officials focused on closing the education gap. The focus should be on ensuring students can catch up from post-COVID shutdowns where school children were forced to be taught digitally. I care about nonpartisan school boards because students should be the focus and not partisan politics. The bottom line is that partisan politics have no place in our schools. Students and their education should be the only priority. We need to remove party from the equation to ensure that every student and person feels respected and heard. Through nonpartisan elections of our school board members, we will take a strong step in ensuring this happens. Thank you again and I request your favorable consideration and would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Representative Shannon?
That's Representative Wayne.
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Wynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a clarifying question before I ask the bill sponsor a question. Did this bill go through subcommittee, Madam Chair?
No, it had not. It had
Okay.
not gone.
And because it didn't go through subcommittee, we haven't had any public comment on it. So will
We will have public comment today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Senator, in 2020, the Republican Party put a ballot referendum on y'all's ballot. And isn't it true that 71% of Gwinnett Republican voters said that they did not want nonpartisan school board elections?
I would argue, we're almost 24 months since that question was asked, and the issues that are currently going on in our school system, I believe that number probably would flip. One fact to consider, Gwinnett County for decades has been regarded having the best school system in the state and one of the best school systems in the country. We have fallen from number 1 to 66 out of 180. And in the past year, we've fallen from 32nd to 66. We've got a real issue in Gwinnett County, and partisan politics, taking that off our school board would certainly take us in a step in the right direction to try to end some of these issues.
And I have a follow-up question, Senator. During that same time, you were on the ballot. And it appears that the voters felt pretty strongly about answering this question. In fact, there were 20,241 voters who answered this question on the ballot. That's more voters in your district that even voted on Senate District 45 race.
Mhm.
And in your specific district, in Senate District 45, the results were the same. 71% of Republican voters voted against this.
Yeah, I would like to remind the committee that was, in May of 2020, which was almost 2 years ago. Since then, the school board has fired our longtime school superintendent with no merit. He had been in the school superintendent for 26 years, Alvin Wilbanks, who was regarded to be one of the best school superintendents in the country. They had no reason for firing him. They cost taxpayers $500,000 by doing so, 18 months before his term was set to expire. Also, this has become the biggest issue that I've had since I've been elected in 2021, since I took office. I've heard from thousands of parents on a whole spectrum of issues that our school system has. And a lot of it starts with our school board, the divisive curriculum that's being taught in Gwinnett County, and the list could go on and on.
And Senator, I have one more question. If you do believe that school board members should be nonpartisan, wouldn't it be prudent to make that case for the entire state of Georgia and not just Gwinnett?
I would be in favor of that measure wholeheartedly, but I represent Gwinnett County, and I know Gwinnett County. I know the school system. I know we're having major issues there. So that's the focus of this bill. If somebody brought that forward, I would be in full support of it.
Thank you.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this change will put this on the May election date instead of November. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe it's my understanding that you tried to bring this during the special session and that you testified that it would be almost impossible to get it done in May.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Are you aware that it's going to be challenging for all of these election officials to move that fast when the school board maps haven't been adopted yet? Is that my understanding?
The school board map was agreed upon by the delegation unanimously, Democrats and Republicans. I know it is moving through the process. No, I don't think it'll be a challenge at all. I really don't. I think there's plenty of time that's left.
And did you collaborate with the delegation on this particular issue?
I did.
And what was the majority vote?
We never voted on this measure. I also, 2 of the school board members in Gwinnett are in favor of this. The former chairman of our school board, Everton Blair, who's vacating his seat, was in favor of this measure if we could move the election from May to November. That was his only reservation about this bill.
Well, is there any consideration that you might consider it being a referendum on the election instead of, and to get the voice of the whole county, since it's been only 2 years since most people said they didn't want it?
Right. Well, there's been a lot of things that have happened in our school system in 2 years. No, I think this change needs to happen now, along with some other legislation that's moving through the legislature this year to help shore up our issues in Gwinnett County.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Representative Burnell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one question for you. Is this a hearing or will we be voting?
We will be voting.
Okay, and I have a question for the author. As a retired educator, I never really thought about if my board members, if they were Republican or Democrat. I know that you're upset that your superintendent is no longer there. My nephew graduated from Brookwood. But because you're upset and because we had COVID, now you think that they should be, how's that going to fix the schools if they're nonpartisan? I don't really know how the two go together.
It'll take partisan politics off of our school board and get the focus back on the students in Gwinnett County. Not sure, Representative, where you live, but Gwinnett's been in the news quite a bit since January of 2021. It's not just the firing of the school superintendent. There are many other issues.
Okay, I have one more question. So because your county turned Democrat and because your school board members you have more African-American school board members, is that why you're saying the school district changed? Because I know that Gwinnett had a really good reputation. I know my nephew did really well when he was in school there. And I'm sure if he was in school there now, he would do well. So I'm just trying to understand how this is going to change for the everyday teacher in the classroom, for the student in the classroom. I just don't see the correlation between the two.
Well, if there is testimony today, you're going to hear from several parents that live in the school district that are experiencing issues, and you can talk to them firsthand about that. This has nothing to do with race, and I'm tired of hearing that narrative. It personally offends me. This is about the students and the children of Gwinnett County.
African-American parents that are going to be testifying too, and Hispanic, because I know it's a very diverse community out there.
Oh, it is. Yeah. And we've got, I'm not sure who's coming today. I put a message out to the parents to come and speak today. We've got parents that are concerned about the issues of all races. We've got parents that are first generation Americans that have come from communist countries and other countries that are very concerned about the direction our school system's going in. Now, whether they're here to speak today or not, I don't know. We're in the middle of the day, but there are several parents here, I believe, that will speak later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Gullett?
Thank you, Senator. I'm a product of Gwinnett County Schools. Grew up in Gwinnett, graduated Norcross High School, the old Norcross, near Beaver Ruin Road. I think the new one's a pretty amazing school. Let's go to the question about the May maps that another representative brought up. Those May maps, the redistricting process, it doesn't matter whether this goes through or not. Those May maps, people are have to be done, and the elections don't. It doesn't matter. People are running in primaries at that time period potentially, and those maps need to be completed before May, whether this bill goes through or not.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And I know people are worried about, hey, there was a ballot question. Obviously, it was non-binding. Ballot question, polling question, I guess is more what it is. But ultimately, you represent the people of Gwinnett. And if you get this wrong, the people of Gwinnett are going to be upset with you and they can hold you accountable in primary. Is that right?
Yes, sir. You're right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Representative Shannon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 questions for the senator. The first is, historically, we've seen that Republicans want to make races nonpartisan when districts lean heavily Democrat, and this is a good way for them to get a stronghold back in an area. Just speak to the timing of why you need this now.
I think I've already done that. We've got major issues in Gwinnett. I think I've spoke to the several of the different issues that we've got. has nothing to do with party. I want to take the party out of the equation so that school board members can focus on the education of our students and not partisan politics, because we partisan politics have seeped into our school board in Gwinnett County.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the second question is this. If you say that there are problems with how the Gwinnett School Board runs, I understand that. But removing party doesn't change people's feelings, doesn't change people's actions. Specifically, how is making these races nonpartisan going to help anything with the problems that you see in the school board?
Yeah, great question. What it would do, it would force voters to educate themselves on the candidates, where as you get down ballot, a lot of times folks will go and they may know 2 or 3 top of the ballot folks they're voting for, and then they vote straight ticket one way or the other. This would force candidates to get their message out to the voters, and it would force voters to educate themselves on the candidate, which I think that's a good thing for any election.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Collins, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I just wanted to add that I like removing some of these offices from partisan politics. I spent a good bit of time in local government at the city level, and I really appreciated that. When you get into partisan politics, I never got called a racist until I became a Republican, and that's unfortunate. And I think that's important to knock down those barriers to help level the playing field and make it more about the issue and less about the politics.
Thank you, Representative.
Representative Roberts?
Just one quick comment. Rep. Gullett brought up the fact that you would be held accountable by your voters. How many members are in the Gwinnett delegation?
In the Senate, there's 7 of us.
Okay. And so if those members are not in support of what you're doing, and in the House as well, I know there are a lot of House Democrats that aren't they also going to be held accountable? But you've circumvented the whole process and made it just for your constituents, when we live in a society that's majority rule. At least that's what I thought a democracy was. So
Yeah, I would argue that I would imagine, the 6 other senators in Gwinnett, I would say there's a lot of parents in their districts that are concerned as well. I've got several parents, and I'm not going to name senators outright, but that live and they've not heard back from their senator, and they're calling me with issues, and they don't even live in my district. It is a major issue in Gwinnett County. Like I said, we've fallen from number 1 to 66 out of 180 school districts in the state, and that's a major issue.
one way or the other on the partisan, nonpartisan. It's the process by which these general bills are being brought versus a local bill that's been done historically.
And I would say, and of course, I know I'm in a House committee, so forgive me if I misspeak, but in the Senate, it is my understanding that local legislation, when it is pushed through that way, it's only if the entire delegation is in favor of it. And if there's any disagreement, then it's run through as a general bill to go through the entire process. It's a courtesy situation in the Senate.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Sands?
Thank you. Thank you. Senator, I appreciate what you're trying to do in my own home county in Camden, but not that it's relevant. It leans Republican, is also a nonpartisan school board. And I think it leads to looking at a student there. I think you would agree the Gwinnett County Board of Education members shouldn't be looking at Republican students or Democratic students. They just should be looking to serve the student. That being said, does your bill do anything to favor any particular candidate?
No, sir, it does not.
I was pretty clear on that, but I just wanted to clarify that. So
thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Representative Leverett?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Senator. My recollection, I've done some school board, represented school boards, and as I recall, Georgia School Boards Association has been recommending very strongly that boards shift to a nonpartisan format for the last 30 years. Is that your understanding?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are going to, for this hearing only, we are going to hear from the audience. We did not put this through the subcommittee. So if there is anyone that wants to speak to this bill, please go line up by the podium. I'm going to ask you to identify yourself and keep your comments brief. You'll have 2 minutes to make your comments. Thank you. Go right ahead.
Okay, my name's Sherry Mitchell and I'm a parent in Gwinnett County. 2 years ago, I would have agreed with this lady back here that I would have probably voted no on the nonpartisan school board, but a lot has changed. When they didn't send my kids back to school at COVID, I got very involved, started a protest, and we got 400 to 500 people there the first week and been very involved ever since then with the school board. I've spoken about a third of the school board meetings, and I have really been awoken as to what's happened in our school board. They have 180,000 kids and a $2.4 billion budget. That's a whole lot of responsibility in the state of Georgia. We need nonpartisan school boards, and I voted for a lot of Democrats and I voted for a lot of Republicans. Let me tell you what, you talk about a show that we don't need. You should be at the school board meetings. They're all online. What I've seen the last 2 years is appalling. They fired a superintendent that we had to pay $530,000 for while we had to pay the new one. When Clint came to speak, they cut him off at 2 minutes and they were rude. Yet the Democratic senators, when they came, they let him go on for 6 minutes. That is just an example. Right now, the chairman of the board, the chairwoman of the board, she has 600 TikToks out there where she's cursing and she's drunk. She had no opposition. I didn't know what a downvote was 2 years ago as a parent. Now I know what it is. I'm guilty of checking the D or the R when I get there because I didn't know. Local elections mean a lot, and I've always heard that, but I didn't know what that meant, because there's not a whole lot of money for local people to put money in elections. But you know what? I'm guilty of it. We need to be able to educate our people. And now that I've been awoken, I know how to educate people. Last week, I watched when we went through the Senate and did the same thing with this. Every parent, if you go back and watch those, say, please give us nonpartisan. Every special interest group and every politician said, no, we don't want this. Let me tell you, we're Loudoun County. And we are the next Loudoun County because the parents are tired of it. That's why they're asking for parents' bills of rights. That's why they're asking for nonpartisan. We're tired of all the politics that are being paid.
Thank you. You have a question. Representative Brunel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am excited to find out now that you found out the value of the school board and schools, because a lot of parents don't realize how important that budget is. So I hope that even if you are nonpartisan, that you will continue to be active and engaged in the school and make sure the rest of the community knows. What school does your child go to?
North Gwinnett Middle School and North Gwinnett High School.
Okay. And were you okay before this change came?
Was I okay? Yes, I was on autopilot. It felt like my kids went to private schools, and like every other, I think, parent in the county, for the most part, we were number one in the state. So I was on autopilot until I saw what my kids were being taught. They came home and we were sitting across the table looking at what they were being taught.
Okay, I just want to give you one little tip. Just because it seems like everything's going right, even if it does, you want to still be actively engaged in your children's education.
I thought I would be done as soon as we got them back to school, ma'am. And 2 years later, it switched from that to the mask. We're the only ones. Fulton County has optional mask. We don't. I am so involved. This is my part-time job because it's my passion. I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you.
You have another question? Representative Fleming?
Thank you for coming today, ma'am. I'm trying to understand something you said, or I think I heard. You said your school board chairman has 600 what? TikTok videos?
TikTok videos. Yes, sir.
And she's drunk?
Yeah, she's drunk and sent them to them, cursing, saying the F word, things teachers would get fired for. She's up there. She voted herself in as chairwoman instead. Oh, yes, sir. It is appalling. And she is our chairwoman ahead of this $200 billion budget.
What's her name?
Therese Johnson. She's been on all kinds of news things. I mean, she's been on Tucker this week. She's been on, it's easy to Google her and find out.
Is she a Democrat or Republican?
She's a Democrat, but it doesn't matter. She ran unopposed. So the Republicans are just as much at fault because they didn't have anybody that they put in for her. So blame the whole system. Don't just blame the Democrats. But the thing is, once you get them, elections have consequences. Once they get in office, I mean, they're staying in office. How do you get them out? It's hard to get somebody out of office. So elections have consequences. She's on.
Has she apologized for? her
No,
actions?
she's, and the superintendent right now is taking up for her. If you go and look on the GCPS website, he's taking up for her. She calls us as white people, white supremacists. I mean, it is appalling what is going on. And there's not a whole lot we can do about it because she's in office.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Shannon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just wanted just a few comments because we've had a lot of talk today on this committee about decorum, but this person in the public is accusing the chairwoman of being drunk, which I doubt that she's been present for any of the TikToks to give a breathalyzer test. So before you accuse an elected official of being drunk, I'd like to see some kind of evidence that you know that. I mean, we've had so much talk about decorum.
I was getting ready to
The
cut them
public
off
should have it too.
when it
Well,
ended.
she had a wine glass and I cannot, okay, let me rephrase that because I certainly don't want to be sued. I cannot say for sure that she's drunk. You guys watch the TikTok video and look for yourself and see, you can come to your own conclusions, but you can look, maybe she's acting. I don't know. She claims in a lot of them she's acting, but she had a wine glass and from my opinion in the behavior that she is demonstrating, she appears to be inebriated.
So could we have decorum from the public as
That's
well?
exactly right. And I was fixing to stop it right when they ended that conversation. You do have a Representative Maynard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to offer some advice. So if I was in your school system and I saw that, the first thing I would be doing is going to the ethics rules and regulations to see what codes were violated and taking that process forward.
We have, and that's another thing. We're afraid of losing our accreditation, and we don't want to become the next Clayton County and our schools and all of our values coming down, or the next DeKalb County. We're very afraid of that.
We're not going to name other issues and places and discriminately, just keep it to the focus of Gwinnett County.
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm sorry, but we're very afraid of losing our accreditation, and we've had people out looking and doing investigations, and they're coming back in April or May. So, yes, yes, ma'am. It has been investigated and it is being looked at. It's terrible because if you were a teacher and some of this stuff was out, you would be fired. And we all have an ethical responsibility to ourselves and to the children of Gwinnett County that they can go out and look at that. Not the little ones, but the ones in middle school and the ones in high school.
Representative Brunel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify because I am from Clayton County. Clayton County lost their accreditation because of their board members, not because of our school district. So I want to make that perfectly clear because I was the community relations liaison at that time, and our schools did very well, but it was because of our board. But I also want to say in terms of the decorum, that members of this committee should not ask the members of the public names of public officials. They can look those up. And so that way you wouldn't be put in that position if you hadn't been asked that name. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just a mom trying to make a difference.
Chairman Oliver?
I want to be clear. Are you withdrawing the allegation that your school board chair was drunk?
Yes, I'm withdrawing the allegation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. The next speaker, please identify. Number 29. Okay, I'm sorry.
I just
Representative
have
Williams.
one comment. Drunk or not doesn't excuse the language of the F word and other things that we're to be held accountable for. So drunk or not, it doesn't matter. Language is another thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chairman Oliver?
Bad language is bad language. And I'd be happy to sit down with Representative Williams and go look at the tapes ourselves and make our own judgment based on our personal observation rather than being told what somebody said on a tape. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker, please identify yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Perkle. I am a 52-year resident of Gwinnett County and a 1984 graduate of Norcross High School. Go Blue Devils. If you had told me this time last year that I would be before you speaking, I would have laughed and scoffed at you in your face because I'm not a political person. I'm very chill. And one of the things that started me focusing on our school board is, of course, the mask issue. I'm very a proponent for no mask in school. Our school board has controlled this from the get-go, and they will not let go of it. I believe that she said that Fulton County, all counties around us are maskless now, even here. Well, for the majority, we have the paperwork showing it. And I believe probably somebody has it here also. But I started because of the mask issue. But also started noticing that there's some things that are going into our school system that doesn't need to be in there. And that's a whole nother subject, but it's based on what this school board has done. I wanted to run against Everton Blair. And I say that because Everton Blair is my board member in Gwinnett County. Okay. That's all I'm going to say about it, because he's District 4. And I was going to run against Mr. Blair and see if maybe I can make a difference in our school system. I found out from our elections committee that I was not allowed to run as an independent. I was not allowed to run unless I had an R or a D beside my name. I am not consider myself a Republican. I do not consider myself a Democrat. I consider myself a conservative liberal or a liberal Republican. So I was going for this. I wanted to be on the school board as an independent person who actually will think about things and do the right thing for what our children and students of Gwinnett County need. And I was not allowed
Thank
to.
you. You have a question?
Oh,
Representative Sands?
sorry.
Just wanted to clarify, because I think it's an important point. Based on your personal experience, you feel that this bill would increase the ability for local individuals to serve in a local capacity.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That's my point, is that we need people who are willing to serve the students of Gwinnett County, not the politics of Gwinnett County, if that makes any sense. I personally have been fighting this for a while. I have now come to the conclusion my child will not graduate from Gwinnett County school system. My child will be in a private school, and I will be withdrawing her based on the school board people that we have now.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. You have a Representative Brunel? No,
Yes, ma'am.
Shannon? Okay.
Yes, this question is actually for Legislative Council, because I'm not aware of any office that we have that an independent cannot run. Is that correct? That
I
she would
didn't
have
get to
been
finish.
prevented?
I didn't get to finish what I was saying. Well, I found out eventually that you have to jump through hoops and hoops and hoops in order to be an independent runner. And there's no way that that should be legal in any way. I should be able to get on board and say, I want to be a school board member and be nominated and elected for what my beliefs are for the students, not for the politics of Gwinnett County. I am about my child. I am about my child learning, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Not anything else. No ideology or anything like that. I want my child to be under the guise of a Gwinnett County public school system that used to be wonderful, now sucks.
It's not about Gwinnett School Board specifically, but most of the races, you do have to jump through hoops to run as independent. So
That's
this
fine,
is
yeah.
not a situation where you're being singled out.
No, I understand that, but it shouldn't be that way is what my point is. Nonpartisan should be nonpartisan. I should be able to look at you and say, Ms. Shannon, what are your goals for the A, B, C, and D? And you should be able to tell me those goals and not run a political party phrase to me. Does that make sense? I don't want to hear what the Republicans have to say. I don't want to hear what the Democrats have to say. I want to know what your thoughts are on what the school board should be doing. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Yes, we get your point. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker, please. And there is a 2-minute and it goes pretty quick.
Hello, my name is Meg Rudnick. I came here today with a group of moms. We're all just moms. We're not, here to advocate for any special interest group or political party. We're just people with kids in the system, and we come from all over the county. I think we represent all 5 districts in our group. According to the GCPS website, the purpose of a Board of Education is to set the direction for the district. Currently, most candidates run as a Republican or Democrat. By running under one of these titles, they're encouraged to support the ideals of these platforms. They often veer away from school board issues and focus on broader party ideals. Many running under these platforms use the school board as a stepping stone position for higher office. They use it as a starting point. We're currently seeing this in Gwinnett. After just one term, we have a board member that's now running for a statewide office. That makes you question the purpose of his last 4 years on our board. The county school board should be for parents, retired teachers, and community members who truly want to improve the education of their children. Political parties currently filter candidates for the school board. Not all who want to run are able to do so with our current system. We need to trust the public is able to identify the candidates that will best serve them and not just be served up a few from each party from their choice. If a candidate is tied to a political party, these candidates will be less responsive to the local voters and more influenced by big government politics. We see the divisiveness of our two-party system all across the nation. It's huge right now. Why do we think this belongs in our local schools? Thank you.
Representative Now, do you have a question or statement?
I just have a statement. I just want to make sure that you all understand that if you want to keep your accreditation, the school board does not run the day-to-day business of the school district. The superintendent does. And if the school board members start to interfere in that, that's how you lose your accreditation. So you want to make sure that you understand the role of the school board member and understand the role of the superintendent. The school board member, they are only the superintendent's boss. They are not the teacher or the principal or anybody else. So they're not able to go. If they go in those schools and start talking, that's a violation. So I just want to clarify that since you all were worried about your accreditation.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I know that we had a special review from Cognia a few months ago, and they will be coming back for their normal review in a few months. And some of the areas that they said that our school system needs to improve on specifically was directed at our board. So that is just an area of concern. We know that Cognia is watching our board. So we are very worried about what they will find with that.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Wendy Lynch, and currently in Gwinnett County, we have a Board of Education and a superintendent that are intent on adhering to their political agendas instead of doing what is best for our children. One major manifestation of that is the fact that the mask mandate remains in place for our students and staff. The board and superintendent have chosen to ignore what they know about childhood development in order to toe their party line. Childhood is a crucial period when humans develop language and social skills, including the ability to detect emotions on other people's faces. But does the Gwinnett County Board of Education care about that? No, they care about their agendas. Social experiences with friends and teachers are critical to a child's growth and sense of well-being. Facial expressions are integral to human connection. Covering a child's face cancels out many nonverbal forms of communication and can result in robotic interactions. But does the board care? No, they just stick to their political agenda. One of the biggest lies of this pandemic period is the statement, children are resilient. No, our children are suffering. Childhood rates of depression and anxiety have skyrocketed since March of 2020, as have mental health emergency room visits. But does the Board of Education recognize that? No, they remain true to their agenda. Please do not dismiss me and other like-minded individuals as being anti-science. Anti-science would be continuing to mandate masks, armed with the knowledge that Gwinnett's number of confirmed cases is 206, which equates to 0.1% of the student and staff population. 0.1%. Our children are at extreme risk now, not at risk from COVID, but at risk from loss of learning, developmental delays, depression, loneliness. I could go on and on. But does the board recognize these problems? No, they continue to cover our children's faces. Our children need normalcy. It is up to the adults in their lives that supposedly want what is best for them to give them that normalcy. We need a board that will do just that. Multiple counties have dropped their mask mandates or never had them, having recognized how extremely low the number of COVID cases are. But yet Gwinnett chooses not to act with reason and discernment and do the same. A nonpartisan board would allow for representatives to focus on what is best for all students. It would allow them to consider the children first and foremost instead of being beholden to their party. Our children are paying the price of our board's political agenda, and it is time for that to stop.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. You don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, my name is Philana Nowak. I recently, almost 4 years ago, moved here to Georgia from a small farming community in Illinois. When I got here and voted, I was surprised by two things. One was that we were able to elect all of the board members. So right now I'm limited to one board member, even though all five of them make decisions for my kids. And the problem with that comes is that if I didn't elect them, they don't feel like they have to answer me or talk to me, or they don't respond to anything, any concerns that I might have, even though they are making those decisions for my children. The second thing that I noticed was that it was partisan. We didn't have that. We also didn't have any of this divisive, politically charged rhetoric. We just knew that we had to vote for our candidates and vote for the one that made the most sense or was the closest to our values. So yes, it's on the voter to do that. The voter has to do the research, but we're voting for the goals of our kids' education. In May of 2020, I likely said yes to the question about party affiliation because it seemed like a no-brainer. The party usually represents where you lie. However, COVID has changed everything, and I have reassessed how I view probably everything in my life. The parties are using the kids as a political game. It's just like a game of chess to them. I want the representative that I choose to be knowledgeable of the community they serve and to represent the values of student achievement and parent involvement, and not following what the political party tells them they need to fall in line with, or any political activist that they're affiliated with. The school board has placed a heavy emphasis on the politics and not putting these students first. My other biggest concern is I do have a son that is going through the athletic recruiting process. Most of the recruiters found him because he's a GCPS student. They know that GCPS is known for academic excellence, athletic performance. So they find these students because of the high school that they're affiliated with. And
thank you so much for sharing. You've given us some very good points. Thank you very much. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Blake Judkins. I am a citizen of Gwinnett. I am a constituent of the author of the bill, Senator Dixon. I am the proud husband of a Gwinnett County school teacher, and I have a daughter who hasn't quite reached school age yet, but she will be set to go to Gwinnett County schools here in just a couple of years. I had a short conversation with Senator Dixon right after this, the Senate committee had its hearing where I voiced my concerns. Apparently my protests did not pierce his zeal. And so the bill is still before you here today. I have concerns that this bill disadvantages different communities. And I think that there has been a gap in the way it's been discussed. Particularly, it seems that when the issue of how this could possibly disadvantage communities of color, to some people, they seem to think this is accusatory. I do not think this is about intent. I don't think that Senator Dixon is intentionally trying to disenfranchise anybody. In fact, the intentions of the bill, bringing more nonpartisan and independent elections, may in and of itself be a good thing that I agree with. The problem is that without that party ID on the ballot, there are disadvantages certain communities. So Gwinnett County had about 70,000 residents 50 years ago. Today it has about 957,000. So anybody who has lived in this area more than a decade or so will inherently have ties to familial ties to people who have been in power for longer. This is called intergenerational power, right? My daddy was mayor. I grew up around politics. I know, so I will know who's running for school board. It also advantages people who are born with more money, right? Because people with more money will have more free time to do the research, to learn more about the candidates that they're running for. It advantages people who speak English as a first language, which Gwinnett County has more second language English speakers than any other county in the state, particularly and more than I think any in the Southeast.
I think you have a question, Representative Maynard.
Yes, go ahead.
You actually have some interesting points. I would just like to say that you bring up the point of if you have more money, you'll have more resources to do things. If you're around politics, you'll have more resources to do things. If you live in an impoverished area, you don't have the resources to research. And so what's unfortunate about that is you will just vote down a party line because you don't know anything else because you're not researching the candidate. So thank you for just bringing that up.
Yeah, and what I actually my schooling is in political science, and Pew Research has actually done studies that show that this is becoming increasingly true over the last few decades. People are more and more strictly voting along party lines.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, but your time is up. Thank
Do
you.
you mind if I just say one more thing?
One more thing. Yes, wrap it up.
I just wanted to get at, when we say that this disadvantages people of color, this isn't necessarily an intentional thing. It's because all of these different ways that might disadvantage somebody, unfortunately, living as a person of color meets at the intersection of many of these different ways. And so I think that you should vote no and not have this
You
bill.
have a
Thank
question.
Yes, absolutely.
Representative Fleming.
Have you seen these videos of the school board chairman that we've been discussing?
I've been there. But I think it's naive to think that taking a person's party identification off of a ballot will in any way change their political opinions or the policies they will push for.
Would you want your daughter to see these videos?
I don't see how that is germane to the issue at hand, but I appreciate the question.
Okay, your time is up, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Thank you. And I truly thank you for the opportunity to offer public comment today. I come before you as a state representative, but also I come before you as a mom, just like everyone else in this line. I have 4 children in Gwinnett and 1 is in Gwinnett County Public Schools right now. I know how excellent our school district is, and I know it's why it's so important we advocate for it. I listen to every single school board meeting, everyone. I think this issue is easy to dismiss as a legislator if it's not your district, because who can argue against the point that removing partisanship from school boards is a good idea? But I think a question that was asked in the summer meetings about the subcommittee on partisanship in school boards by Senator Lester Jackson is one that just does not leave my head. Which public office do we want to be more partisan? If we say school board should be less, which one do we want to be more? So if the answer is none of them, then the solution of saying moving our school board to be nonpartisan will somehow solve a problem is not valid unless we also want to look at the state house, which has just as much conflict. So I actually have done quite a lot of engagement on this topic, though. I reached out to every partisan school board in the state that had public email addresses, and I asked them what they thought about making this type of decision. And I got responses back, and I got them back from quite a lot of counties. And I want to read those out for you. Bartow, Tortuga, Cherokee, Cobb, Crisp, Fayette, Forsyth, Gordon, Greene, Hancock, Newton, Paulding, Polk, Taylor, Thomas, and Washington. So I got a pretty large swath of the state where someone wanted to let me know that they believe this type of decision should really be rooted in the local community. And about 75% of those votes did say, yes, this should be a decision rooted in the local community. We know in Gwinnett, we don't have the database right now to say that our community really wants this. Every single measurable piece of data we have does not support that. Even the 6,801 comments we recently got back on the school map, on the school board maps, that had a comment line. I read every single one. And of the about 2,000 people who put a comment in, 25 were primarily focused and exclusively focused on the school board being moved to nonpartisan. So this ask is not large, it's just loud. And I think I also want to leave you with part of the exchange. I talked to so many people on school boards about their values in this space. And many of the people I had conversations with who called me were Republicans. We don't ideologically stand that close, but we did have common understanding. And one of those common understandings that I just want to leave you with is that people don't abandon your belief systems or values simply by taking on a nonpartisan mantle. And neither do they develop one by choosing a party to run for. We're all adults before we're casting our votes, and all of our life experiences are contributing to the value set that we bring to each office. Overall, I truly think people believe partisanship and party support plays a much larger role in all the things that we do as elected officials than it actually does. And I'd just like to say, sitting in Gwinnett, I can tell you assuredly, no one on our school board is running for partisan glory. It's just not. It's an exhausting, excruciating job, and they are working their hardest at it.
You have a question?
Absolutely.
If you would, let's see, Representative Gravely, if you would unmute.
Yes, ma'am.
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I just have a quick question in regards. I did pull up, and this is not directed to the representative in the well. I had hoped to have the question when some of the parents of the students in the school system were testifying. I did have an opportunity to pull up some of the videos, both from TV 46 and some of the personal TikToks. And my question is, I did hear the F word used in the videos, and I didn't know, is there if one of the students said this in the classroom or at the school, would the Gwinnett, is there disciplinary procedures that would befall that student if they use the same language in a classroom setting?
I'm in a meeting. What do you need?
I mean, I guess am I supposed to answer this?
No, the question is not directed to you, the representative, because I'd had my hand raised before your testimony. So I apologize. I just got called on during your testimony. So I didn't know if one of the parents could answer, and I can wait till after your testimony to be respectful.
Sure, I am a parent in GCPS. I have a child there, and if he were swearing in school, I would definitely know about it. If he's swearing in my backyard or in a TikTok video, though, that would be my problem and not the school's.
Yeah, but my question wasn't whether or not he was in the backyard of his own home or her own home. My question was, is there protocol or policies and procedures within the Gwinnett County school system that would discipline a child if that child used the F word in a classroom setting or to a teacher?
Yes.
The answer is yes. People
Thank you,
need to
Madam
know.
Chair.
Thank you. Representative Brunel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I resent the fact that the men in this committee are asking all these questions because it's a woman.
Okay, we're not going there. We're
I
going to
know,
stop
but-
it.
But you've allowed them to go there and they keep going there and they're not stopping. And
We
I
have
find
allowed
that
you to
very
speak many,
uncomfortable.
many times, and this is, we're getting away from, we're not going to talk about TikTok anymore. We're done with that. No more. That's not what this issue is about, but we're not going to start nitpicking either. Okay. Representative Shannon?
No, I think you covered. I was just going to say it's a waste of our time to go into what somebody does, when they are not at work, and that I'm sure the representatives in this chamber cuss when they're not in the chamber. So we need to
Conduct
stop
of an
wasting
elected official
committee.
anywhere is important, and they need to keep that public entity and private entity, but that's not what we're discussing today.
Right.
Representative Maynor?
I was just going to say that Atlanta Public Schools is a nonpartisan school board.
That's true.
So one of the largest school boards in Georgia. And when we go to the polls to vote on a board member, we're really researching them to see what they value. And so in Atlanta, there are certain topics that, you know, this candidate feels this way, or this candidate feels this way. And so just saying that we are nonpartisan in Atlanta.
Yes, you are. And absolutely, we do that. What we don't do is then show up in disproportionate numbers in May to vote in those nonpartisan races. And I know that because I went through Gwinnett and specifically pulled that data. We know that when we have a November election, our turnout is vastly from 2 to up to 10 times more in our November election than our May election. And it does not matter whether you're the partisan or the nonpartisan candidate in May. Your nonpartisan candidates do not outperform the rest of the people who are in that period. So when we look at the decrease in the amount of people in Gwinnett who will cast a vote from the school board by moving from November to May, that is stunning. And it will really impact how many parents get a voice in who is on that board. And I think every parent should get a voice. And knowing that the barrier is higher for showing up in that May election or that spring election, I see moving our elections from November to May as the biggest challenge with a bill like this.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your sharing. Next, please, and we are running out of time, so if you would
I
be
will be
brief.
insanely fast. My name is Steve Smith. I'm a father. I know there's a bunch of moms here. I'm a father. In fact, my son's here with me because I would have missed the school bus if I hadn't brought him along. So everybody say hi and tell him he's getting a nice civics lesson today. What it boils down to, you've heard a lot of stuff up here, and what the parents are asking for, and what I'm asking for in general, wanting a nonpartisan election, is the following. I want political money out. I want the party money out of both sides. I want people to have, like you said here in Atlanta, I want them to have to get up front and tell me everything right up front about why. And if there's 7 people that are all running for the same spot, well, the one who sounds the craziest to me is out. I need a moderate. I need somebody who can actually focus on the kids. We've got people running for other offices. We've got people wanting to argue. We've got our Democratic House and Senate reps in Gwinnett on both sides saying this is unfair to move it to May because people don't show up. If the Democrats are that concerned about it, by all means, please advertise and tell every citizen of Gwinnett County every day when the election is. But it's that citizen's job to show up. It's not the legislation's job to protect them. And I need to make that abundantly clear. A November election is not a guarantee that people show up to vote any more than a May election is. And considering everybody talks about how important the kids are, and the kids are the future, and the kids are the way we're going, the May election's actually probably more important than November. Senator Jackson at a study committee hearing back in December asked me, well, what do you think about all the other partisan offices? I'd like them all gone. I would prefer all of you to have to run on your name, your record, and your reputation, and not what your party identification is. Now, I'll never get that, but I can start. Judges are nonpartisan for a reason. They're supposed to be neutral, and they're supposed to be neutral in their opinion of the law. Why do we not consider the same of the education of our children? Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Next.
Hello, my name is Catherine Oubre, and I'm a 41-year resident of Gwinnett County. In February 2021, my special needs daughter was diagnosed with bacterial pneumonia. It was a nightmare illness. You would automatically think that her illness was caused from COVID, but no, she had bacterial pneumonia, which is caused from bacteria inhaled into the lungs. The doctor's suspicion was the constant masking at school. Based on the metric determined by GCPS to remove mask mandate, our children will never be without a mask again, and I'm greatly concerned that another child will suffer from the repercussions of needless mandates. Why does Gwinnett have a metric that is far more strict than any other school system in the metro Atlanta area? That is an answer that no one is willing or able to answer. My suspicion, our highly politicized Board of Education. For over a year, I have watched parents beg, plead to lift the mask mandate that has a tremendous negative effect on many students of Gwinnett schools. Over the course of the last year, the BOE of GCPS has come under fire due to the firing of an awarded superintendent without cause, which cost taxpayers $500,000, the masking of our children, the push by some on our board to implement critical race theory, and the push to remove school resource officers, not to mention our current chairperson's behavior on social media that would cause any employer to think twice. The most important criticism is the scrutiny of our accreditation body, Cognia. The continued partisanship of the board is threatening our children's future if or when we lose accreditation. Sadly, all this criticism has fallen on deaf ears. Mandates continue, radical agendas are still being pushed, parents are silenced and ignored. Divides grow deeper between the board and the citizens. Partisanship places people in opposition, and we can see how well partisanship has created opposition in our society, that we even find division in the most simple things. It is out of control.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Your time is up.
That's really not fair. Nobody else got cut off.
Yes, they
And
did.
I actually prepared this. I took time, and I have one paragraph to go.
Please complete your paragraph.
Thank you. After a few weeks ago, I was speaking with someone from my church who is very involved in Republican-leaning politics in Gwinnett. I had mentioned to her about this bill and how I thought it would be a fantastic change for our school system and community. She looked at me in horror and said, "How could I support such a bill?" Needless to say, I was quite surprised. I then started researching what local Democrat and Republican politicians were saying about this bill. Most were actually against it. I thought long about this, and I realized that the fact that Democrats and Republicans, and I'm talking about Republicans in our county, are not happy about this bill is precisely the reason Gwinnetians need it passed. Our children are not political tools to be used for anyone's agenda. They are our future, and they need us to free them of partisanship so they can determine their own political views.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
sharing. Next.
Hello, my name is Cindy Battles. I'm the Director of Policy and Engagement for the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. What I'm about to say may shock a few people, but the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda is actually supportive of nonpartisan school boards. So we are actually in favor of that portion of the bill. What our concerns are is the push to have these elections in May instead of waiting until November. It feels like, having listened to this proposal since special session when they tried to say that it was an emergency, and using curriculum that's not actually being taught in public education, listening to parents who are very concerned about what has become a politicized issue, namely mask mandates, that what is trying to be done is they're trying to change the school board, the current makeup of the school board in Gwinnett County by insisting that this be in May. So what we're asking, and I know that it's been proposed before, if this bill is going to go forward, that the elections actually be held in November instead of May. We're going to ask that on behalf of a number of election supervisors who are alarmed at the number of things that they are going to have to do in May to make elections safe, secure, make sure that we don't have long lines and that kind of thing. Putting this one other thing on Gwinnett County election supervisors just seems super unfair. So if this election can be moved to November, we would actually be in support of the legislation, but otherwise we're going to oppose it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you have a question, Representative Sands? Oh, I'm sorry, Painter? No? Okay. All right. Now, I will be open to, okay, Representative Sands.
I would make a motion to do pass.
Do we have a second? Okay, all those in, yes? Now is the perfect time if you want to make an amendment.
Thank you. I've got an amendment here, same one that came from the Senate. So it's sponsored by Senators Harrell, Ramon, Butler, And basically, this is just an amendment to move the election to November instead of May, because we do know that more people vote in November than in May. Just, yeah, you can, here.
But it hasn't been
Thank you.
prepared. Okay. Would you like to address that, please?
I would, if Ledge Council's in the room, it's my understanding, because I did ask Ledge Council this when the former chairman requested that back in December. And the response I got was that you could not move the election because of state law. You could not move the election from May to November for one county. If we went statewide, nonpartisan school boards, then the election would be moved at that time.
Correct. That is correct. Okay, so this amendment is not in order.
Can the Legislative Council just confirm that?
Yes.
OCGA 21-139 does require that nonpartisan local elections occur on the date of the nonpartisan general election, which is held in concurrence with the general primary, which for this year is scheduled for May 24th. So any change to that schedule would require a change to the general election law governing all nonpartisan elections in the state.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. I will call the vote. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. Thank you for bringing your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee members. Thank you.
Could you tell me who is going to be carrying the bill in the House?
Yes, Madam Chair, it will be Chairman Chuck F. Stration.
Thank you. We have one more bill. This is the last bill of the day, and that's House Bill 1199. Maisha Maynard. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Everybody can collect themselves, and we will be back in 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. We are going to come back to order. And we are now going to hear House Bill 1199. And Representative Maynard, if you would present your bill.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. We had a lot of discussion yesterday on this bill, 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours worth of discussion. Thank you for letting me bring it here. I don't know really what more to say besides Fulton County Board of Commissioners. To this day, yesterday, Gina did report that they have not given her back a map that they have approved yet. There is not a map that Fulton County Board of Commissioners has submitted. Last week, you saw in the chamber, decorum probably at its lowest. And so the conversation right before us with the Gwinnett County Board of, I mean, not the Gwinnett County, but the parents from Gwinnett County, you know, we are in a very politicized state. And I can tell you that my delegation does not want this bill to go forward. And it's only because of the way I vote on some other issues. So you have a timeline of facts in front of you. It starts on 11/9 and it ends up into current. This is what happened with Fulton County, and I'm going to make it really short. In November, they contacted the Board of Commissioners and they said, hey, here's a map. One commissioner was drawn out of her district. They said, we are going to put you back in your district. In December, they never contacted her. In January, she contacted them and said, did you put me back in my district? Where's the new map? They did not show her a map. That was on January 13th. On January 19th, Fulton County Board of Commissioners held a meeting. At that meeting in the morning, they had public comment. They said yesterday in testimony that 3 people came. Over the past 2 days, we've had over 100 people here. I did a press conference. We had nearly 75 residents of Fulton County here saying they want this map. At the hearing yesterday, I didn't count, but let's just say it was 10 to 15 people. Fulton County never had a public hearing in their community. They had one public hearing in their own space and 3 people came. I need to back up a little bit. So when they presented the map to the one commissioner that they drew out of her district, they said there are 3 maps. And yesterday there was a lot of discussion about 3 maps, 3 maps, 3 maps. And they're calling them maps A, B, and C. Map B and C were invalid, which meant there was only 1 map. There was testimony yesterday from the chairman of Fulton County. He said he doesn't know who drew the maps. He doesn't know who drew her out. That's all irrelevant because right now, present day, there still isn't a map. So why isn't there a map? They voted on a preliminary map on the 19th. They met with the Fulton delegation on the 21st. We received an email of the map on the 21st. The map that you see up here, the one that looks, you just guess which one is Fulton County's map. My district that I represent is in between the map closest to the wall. My district is in between, well, it has a little bit of the yellow, it has a little bit of the purple, it also has some orange, but in particular where you see orange, purple, and yellow just all scrambled up together, that's actually the poorest part of Atlanta. So I sent an email to them, the entire board, the entire group, the delegation, everybody at the county that was on that email. And I said, you know what, this is disenfranchising people because if you have the poorest people with 3 different commissioners, how are they supposed to know who their commissioner is? When in these communities, sometimes they don't even know they have a commissioner. So once you find out you have a commissioner and your neighbor says, oh, the commissioner is this person, you call for some help and you can't get any help because the commissioner says, I'm not your commissioner. It just puts citizens in marginalized communities in a situation where they can't get services because they just don't know who their commissioner is. So at the meeting, there was a Zoom call. I brought this to their attention. Also on that Zoom call, I said, you know what, you guys are late. Like, you're not going to get a map passed. And at this point, the only way you're going to get a map passed is if a legislator draws your map. At the end of that phone call, and I should also back up and say, I called Gina prior to and said, you know what, there are going to be questions about this map process. And here's the link. Just please be on standby if questions pop up, because I know there are going to be some questions that are going to pop up. Like I suspected, there were questions. I said what the processes are, and they actually said, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. Called Gina on the Zoom. She got on the Zoom. She said exactly what I said. And their responses were, we weren't aware. We weren't aware. We weren't aware. At the end of that Zoom call, they said, okay, we're going to fix the disenfranchisement. We're going to clean up the map, and we're going to address the commissioner's concerns that feels like her district is also disenfranchised. And we'll get back to you. So that was on January 21st. No one called her. No one texted her. No one emailed her. There was an email that went out, and that email said, we have addressed all the issues of this commissioner, but they never even called her or spoke to her. And this commissioner was testified yesterday at the hearing. Immediately after that January 21st Zoom call, I went to the reapportionment office that evening. Gina stayed up here with me till evening. I mean, it was nighttime. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to submit this map, but in case Fulton County just doesn't submit a map, at least we have a map. Why is it important to have a map? Because Fulton County's population changed so much that we would be in violation of the one person, one vote statute of the 14th Amendment. And from the attorneys that I've spoken to, in May, if we were to go to an election, every elected officials, if they won, it could be challenged because we were in violation of the one person, one vote, and we did not have to be. You know, we could have submitted a map. So let me back up again. On January 21st, Fulton County submitted a map. The map that they submitted was full of errors. Gina sent it back to them the first time and said, you sent this in the wrong format. We sent you instructions. You're supposed to send it to us in a particular format. You didn't send it to us in the format. So I need you to send it back to us in the format. So they sent it back to her in the format. There were 8 maps. She told us yesterday, there were 8 maps in front of the Fulton County map.
Do you have a question?
I'm having trouble following who all of they are. They did this and they did this.
You want me to put names?
No, I want you to tell us what you're asking us to do in one specific way. That's what my request is.
I am presenting a bill. I can't do that in one sentence.
Please continue.
So, not mentioning names, Gina, I'll mention Gina's name because she's over reapportionment. Gina sent the map back to Fulton County, corrected, errors corrected. Fulton County, that was on January 28th. All of this is in this timeline that you have on your desk. On January 31st, they sent it back to her and they said 2 county commissioners had the wrong address. They said they needed to correct the map again because where the commissioners had addresses on file were no longer their addresses. So she corrected the map, which changed the map again and sent it back to them. And that's where the map is still right now. The map is that they were correcting is still in Fulton County. They never sent the map back to Gina.
You have a question? You go, Representative Fleming.
Thank you. The crooked finger map, did they tell you why they drew it that way?
Because that's how it's always been. And yesterday I said that just because it's always been wrong doesn't mean it has to stay wrong.
Were they going up and trying to grab a incumbent commissioner with that long finger or
Which one are you?
The one with the crooked finger that kind of goes up and around, you know, like that.
Are you talking about the
One on
top or the
one on-
bottom?
The one on the left.
The yellow.
Yeah, the purple one on the bottom, it looks like a crooked broken finger.
Oh, right. I don't know why they did it like that 10 years ago.
Right.
But they chose to keep it like that in 2020.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So let's see, where was I? Addresses were wrong. So she had to change the map again. She sent it back to them. That map is still there. While all of this was going on, I contacted the chair of Fulton County Delegation. And I said, look, I have a map, you know, I can work on a map. He said, okay, work on the map, work on the southern portion of the map. We passed each other in the hallway several times. He said, thanks for doing, you know, the work. The work is the exact words he said. Fast forward a little bit more, as of this past weekend, they were still working on the map. They were calling around, still trying to figure out how to do a map. This whole time, my point has been, you guys were going to miss this deadline. Just want to make sure. I'm trying to make this short. You have some letters in your packets of support. So I just want to make sure you know that you have letters of support. And so, I mean, that's really all I can say is right now, Fulton County has not submitted a map. Last Wednesday, Senator Albers dropped his own map on the Senate side. I went over to Senator Albers and I said, you know, I have been drawing a map as well. And we had a conversation. The conversation was Fulton County doesn't have a map and we need a map. And so that's why he took the initiative to draw a map. It didn't come from Fulton County. It came from Senator Albers. So 2 totally independent legislators, but 2 independent legislators that just knew a map. You had to have a map. And that's where we are. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes, you have several questions. Representative Sands, you have a question?
So just a point for clarification, you're stating that the Fulton County Delegation and or the county have failed to, you were worried they were going to fail to submit a map within the given time required to file it based on our House rules?
They were anticipating that they were going to make the deadline and they did not.
Okay.
Chairman Tankersley, you know, everyone got the paper that said the maps need to be in by February 1st. And then she went on the House floor and she said, I'm going to give everybody till February 7th. As of February 7th, they still don't have a map. They actually submitted something, which they said in our delegation group chat that they submitted a map. I thought everything was solved, but they did not submit a map. They submitted a bill that said they wanted to make the Fulton County Board of Commissioners nonpartisan. It wasn't a map. And so there's not a map.
So your map is the only map in consideration for Fulton County?
Senator Albers still has
other-
his in the works on his side. We're both just trying to get a map passed.
Thank you.
Representative Roberts?
Thank you. I have different facts. My understanding, and I would love to have Chairman Dreyer actually be able to address you all eventually, but what I will say is SB 437, my understanding is that the delegation worked in a bipartisan fashion with Senator Albers because his was already moving faster, and that the county commission was consulted with it and agreed on that map, and that map was passed out of the Senate yesterday. So it is moving on a faster track than this bill. And isn't it true that you committed to the delegation that if we had a map, you would withdraw yours?
What's really interesting is that this is not about a map, it's about me. You guys have said over and over, we do not work with Republicans. You were mad that I took Senator Albers' information from districts 1 and 2. And so now you would rather take a Republican's map instead of mine because it's mine.
Okay, we're not going to get into personal stuff
not.
right now.
I'm not.
This is, okay. I have not received it in my committee. If there was a Senate bill, I have not received
It'll
it.
be first read tomorrow, and then probably, it's been brought as a local bill, so it should be assigned to intergovernmental.
We'll see. I don't know. I just was admitting I don't. Okay. Representative Shannon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, 2 questions. Just to state for the record, I'm in DeKalb, so none of these questions are about you. But I did also hear that Senator Albers has a map that has passed unanimously through local legislation on the Senate side. And that map has bipartisan support. So if that is the case, are you willing to withdraw your map and allow that to proceed since that actually did go through a delegation and it has broad support?
It was first read, it hasn't been first read because they haven't submitted a map. It's in the hopper. So you're talking about a map that has gone through several processes and hearings. Senator Albers' map will be a first read on tomorrow.
Not in the House, in the Senate. I'm being told that, I was told that it passed in the Senate through local legislation.
Passed out.
So I
Is
think
that-
we need to just see where the ball lands. At this point, we need a map. So I
But
think
the
we're all in
question-
agreement that Fulton County did not submit a map. And so Senator Albers and myself, thank you. Senator Albers and myself have both submitted a map, and I've talked to Senator Albers and we both agreed, let's just see which map gets to the finish line first.
So let me restate my question because my question has nothing to do with where these maps are in process. What my question is this: if Senator Albers' map has bipartisan support, as we know it does, and yours does not, are you willing to withdraw your map and allow his to advance?
The deadline for the maps to be in Fulton County is February 18th. Tomorrow, I believe, is February 10th. We still need to go through, his map still needs to go through a process. The governor still needs to sign a map. At this point, no one needs to take their map off the table because no map has been finalized.
Okay, so to clarify, you're not willing at this point.
I answer the question and you're putting words in my mouth.
No, I'm just clarifying. The second question is the differences between the 2 maps. I want to know, what does your map do to the Black vote in the North Fulton Commission districts? Because what I've heard about Senator Albers' map, and this is probably why his map does have bipartisan support, is that the Black vote is at 12.5%, 12.54%, and yours reduces it to 10.15% for District 1. And then for District 2, his map has 15.44%, and yours reduces it to 13.76.
Interrupt right now. We're talking about a map that we haven't seen. We don't know what it is. I don't know that that's entering in the conversation right now. We're addressing this map, this bill. What's coming down the road, what we get tomorrow, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what the numbers are. I want to address the facts of this bill that we are directing right now. You'll have the option to vote any way you want to. But at this point, we are looking at this bill. I'm not going to make it subject to a Senate bill.
Okay, so let me clarify.
I'll answer
Or
the
let me
question
restate.
because
Okay.
my Districts 1 and 2 are the exact same districts as Senator Albers. I had Gina copy Senator Albers 1 and 2 and put it onto mine. So you saying that our statistics are different is incorrect. It's the exact same.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first question I had is just around the timeline. And when we're talking about trying to move these maps through, I know everybody's under pressure, and this is just a process that has not gone the way that it traditionally does. But we do know that the map presented by Senator Albers, which was introduced through a local
I
process.
thought we were not going to be
We're not-
talking about
I
Senator
wanted to
Albers'
talk
map
about
anymore.
the timeline, like if we're talking about timelines and trying to advance
About this map.
advance
Happy
these
to,
maps
because I
through.
can't tell you the timeline of Senator Albers' map. I don't know his timeline.
It's further along than this particular map. It's been voted out of one chamber, is just what I wanted to clarify. Because if we are talking about us trying to, in good faith, meet deadlines and have maps, which you want to do, I think probably all the members of the Fulton delegation do. The map, there is another map that has, whose timeline is faster than this one.
Both of our maps are still in the process.
And then the follow-up question I have is around the BVAP. And I don't know if there's confusion around maybe the way, I mean, things are moving pretty quickly. And what I also saw was the BVAP in District 1 and District 2 on the map that you're presenting remains the same. And then in the other one, there's actually a 0.2% increase in BVAP with 1 and 2.
So there's a substitute, and the substitute copied Senator Albers over to my map. We have the exact same District 1 and the exact same District 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe on Zoom, we have Representative Gravely. If you will unmute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm looking at, I guess there's two maps that are displayed in the committee hearing room, correct?
Yes.
The larger maps. From a Zoom perspective, which one am I looking at that you are presenting? Is it the one on the left or the right?
I'm presenting the one that has the cleanest boundaries.
Okay.
The
What
one
is
where the purple, it's just one block of purple.
I see it down there at the bottom in South Fulton.
Yes, and then so, yeah, there's a West Fulton, there's a East Fulton, there's,
I see. Yes. Okay. So what is the other map?
that is a map that has not gone anywhere. That's a map of Fulton counties that is still in Fulton County because they never sent it back. I'm just giving an example of what they
Okay.
did present to us
Okay.
initially.
If I may, Madam Chair,
Yes, go right ahead.
I haven't seen the composite from the Senate today or yesterday, so I can't speak on the alleged map coming out of the Senate from the senator, but how close does it resemble the map that you have presented here today on the right?
We had a conversation with Gina via email, and we both agreed on that email that we would do the exact same map.
Okay, and so the substitute that you mentioned, the substitute map that's allegedly coming out of the Senate resembles the map that I'm seeing on Zoom enlarged there on the right, correct?
Since it's not here yet, I can't actually say it is, but the conversation I had with Senator Albers was that we were both gonna have his top and my bottom.
Okay. One last question, if I may, Madam Chair. Is it not true that there are a lot of bills that come out of that are filed in both the House and the Senate with the objective of seeing which one kind of makes it across the finish line first, but never do we stop the process simply because you never know what could happen in the Senate. You never know what could happen in House committee. So it's always a safe bet, I think, and especially because we're reaching a deadline to have, both maps move forward in a fashion. And if one surpasses the other one, great. Fulton County will have maps, but it should something happen unforeseen, you've still got another one there to make sure that Fulton County is in compliance. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Oliver.
It's in the form of parliamentary inquiry, Madam Chair. We don't have a motion before us, and we're talking about various procedural steps that the Senate may or may not have taken. I would like to make a motion that we lay this bill on the table until we can have, if we wish to consider both maps, both bills in front of us. I do not believe that we are timely at this point to understand what is being presented. I move that the 1099 be laid on the table.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's take a vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
The noes, it does not pass. I will tell you, Representative Sands,
I have a motion at
we're
the
not,
appropriate
we're
time.
not ready. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. Okay. We have a lot of discussion going on right now. You've made your presentation. I think Representative Dwyer, Chairman Dwyer, would you like to go to the podium and speak?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for listening to this. It's confusing. Look, I mean, the first thing I'm going to say is the map that passed out of the Senate is not the same as the map that's being presented to you today. In fact, we handed out the map that reapportionment just now printed, that is Senator Alber's map that had unanimous support in the Senate. You can compare that with the one that is displayed. And Chair Gravely, I'm sorry that I don't have that for you on Zoom, but there's differences. I'm also
No
not going
worries.
to make excuses for what Fulton County did. They were late. There's absolutely no question about that. I wish that could have been better. I'm sure they wish that could have been better. But we as a delegation tried to work as probably anyone in here would to be as deferential to our county commissioners as possible. I'll tell you that the county commissioners are 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. We saw Senator Alber's map, made a slight tweak to the one Gina Wright did to straighten out the population deviations that Fulton County presented. I understand there are 5 commissioners for Fulton County that like the Albers map that will be first read in the House and that was immediately transmitted yesterday. So that's the process that the Fulton County delegation has supported. The Fulton County delegation has submitted a substitute map to intergovernmental with the requisite number of signatures that matches Senator Alber's map to the T, because we think that is a bipartisan consensus based. To the degree there can be a consensus, it's as close as possible it can get. And so I think this is a good opportunity to be able to respect the local delegation process, because it gets the greatest amount of consensus and it still allows us to go through that process.
I'd like to ask my question if I could.
Ed, go right ahead.
So you went to Senator Albers and you told him, forget what you said to Representative Maynard and do what we want instead. Is that how that worked?
I have not had any personal conversations with Senator Albers, but
So who do you know who had the conversation with them? Because when I spoke to Senator Albers and he saw my map, he agreed. Well, I can't say he agreed, but when we talked about how this map looked, this map still has the disenfranchisement in the poorest communities in Atlanta, the one that I represent.
I can tell you that I didn't talk to Senator Albers.
So who did? You're the Fulton chair. So who spoke on your behalf?
Look, Madam Chair, I want to say one thing that I'm doing my best throughout this, a very difficult process, to take a lot of deep breaths and not make things personal. I think I've done a pretty good job of that. I'd like to continue to do that. What I do know is that there's been a map that passed with unanimous consent out of the Senate that was immediately transmitted yesterday. And that map has a majority of the Fulton County delegation in support of it.
Okay. Let's see, we have a question, Representative Fleming.
So, Counselor, I'm looking at the map you passed out, and it looks more like the one on the left up there, a little different, but it still has that real crooked, broken looking finger thing on the bottom. What is the purpose of that?
So this is a complicated history that got to that crooked, broken thing, but there used to be 7 Fulton commissioners. That was at one point changed to 6 Fulton commissioners. One of the commissioners, current commissioners, lived in South Fulton and moved to Atlanta. Part of what you have here is you have 3 commissioners in the southern part that actually live fairly close together, but and this is again, there's 3 South Fulton commissioners. 2 of them have said that they really know areas, folks want them to continue to represent them. And that's how it is what it is. And when I started working on this, I was told, and it was true, that there was unanimous consent out of the Fulton Commission on a map that looks very much like the one in front of you. One commissioner did a deeper dive and decided to pull back that support, and it kind of made it a little more difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have, go ahead and answer his question.
Okay. He asked me, what district do I live in? That's a complicated question because I have a stalker, so I have to keep moving around within my own district.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to speak?
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
I would like to address Chairman Fleming. He asked about why that crooked finger is there. So the district, the commissioner that represents that crooked finger in the purple, that commissioner lives near the yellow part of the district. She doesn't live anywhere in the south. It's 175,000 people that each commissioner represents. She has gone to her community and said, you know what? As much as I love you guys, I know you're going to miss me, but we need to, at this point, so we're at this juncture, we need to make this community whole so you can actually have a South Fulton commissioner. And that's why we had almost 100 people come up here over the past 2 days. They're all from South Fulton. Some were from North Fulton, but the community came out and spoke here at the Capitol more than they did at the Fulton County Courthouse or chamber.
Yes.
I appreciate the response, and I figured there was some history there because just to the first glance, yours looks more compact.
And that's what we tried to do when I went with Gina. In fact, when we found out that the commissioners moved, Gina and I also changed my district. So, I mean, not my district, but my map. So we have constantly tried to adjust to this changing process.
Okay, this committee appreciates everyone that has participated in this. I'm going to hold the vote for today, and we're going to look at that map tomorrow and see what happens with that map. So we are going to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.